Hi guys, welcome to the Courageous Nerd YouTube channel for another interview. I'm Connor and joining me is Aadila Dosani to talk about her role as Amanda Bobbsey on the CW's Nancy Drew. We also discuss Adila's experience working in the acting industry. If you enjoy this interview or any of the others on the channel, please be sure to like and subscribe. So welcome and thank you for taking the time to do this.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to hang out and chat.
For sure. And I guess we'll be talking about your role as Amanda Bobbsey on Nancy Drew. But before we get into that directly, I was wondering, how did your journey into acting first start?
Oh man, loaded question.
Oh,
No,
I brought up the big guns on question one. I'm sorry.
yeah, I know. Hey, look at that.
Mm,
I'll take the challenge though. I'm up for it. Oh man, so my journey as an actress.
mm,
Sometimes I don't even know what I call myself, honestly.
mm,
Um, I started quite young, actually. My parents put me into community theater when I was probably like 7 or 8.
mm.
And those extracurricular things they kind of put you into on the weekend so they have time to do everything. And that's kind of where it started. They actually plucked me out. I was involved in like ice skating and swimming, and
Mm.
yeah, I did not excel. Like I sucked. Let's the
Oh,
truth is I sucked.
right.
And so I feel like either they were thinking about me or they were super embarrassed because I was the kid that just could not pick it up. So they plucked me out of like all ice and water sports and put me into community theater. And I feel like that's where I got the bug
Right.
for for this jazz. And then it kind of just continued on from there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose it's kind of well, jumping ahead by several years.
Yeah.
Like before you got on to Nancy Drew, were you familiar with Edward Straightmeyer's novels, or was it completely like new to you when you jumped in?
No, I mean, I had read, all of the Nancy Drew
Right.
novels. I grew up with them. My mom grew up with them. So we inherently, my sister and I, got those hand-me-downs because she has all of those old school hardcover
Mm.
books of the volumes, like the
Right.
ones that like now kind of have faded because they were actually printed on the board, sort of thing. And
Mm.
so yeah, my sister and I grew up reading all the Nancy Drew books and like all the Hardy Boy books. My mom was such a sleuth.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, and a few of the Bobbsey twin books actually. So that was pretty wild that she had them as well. And so that was our reading material. So I was very familiar with the source material
Yeah.
coming to it.
But I mean, I'm sure that kind of thing must have been a great feeling when you found out who the part was that you were going up for. That must have been a great like light bulb,
Oh
universe
yeah.
connecting moment. I'm
It was
sure.
wild for
Mm.
sure. I mean, we didn't know initially. I didn't, and Perneat, who plays my brother, the twin brother Gil,
Yeah.
we when we auditioned, they never tell you the specifics, which
Mm.
makes sense, right? You don't want
Yeah.
anything to be leaked. And so we didn't actually find out we were playing the Bobbsey twins until several weeks later when we got the role and we jumped on a call with some of the executive producers and showrunners, and then that's when they were like, by the way, you're playing a Bobbsey twin, right? And I was like, sorry, what?
Mm.
A Bobbsey twin? Shut the front door. Okay. So no idea at all going into this. Yeah.
Yeah, and just assuming that someone who might have come across this interview might not be familiar with Nancy Drew, like how would you describe, I guess, well, the show that you're in and the character of Amanda to anyone who might be, unfamiliar or new to it?
Yeah, totally. So this version, CW's version of Nancy Drew, is quite different from the source material.
Mm.
I mean, Nance Kennedy, who plays Nancy, is wonderful, and she has all of those qualities that we love about Nancy Drew. But this series has a huge like supernatural element
Right,
to
sure.
it, and so I'm not gonna lie, it's quite scary for me. I don't do that horror
Right.
genre very well. I'm such a chicken. I mean, I think ghosts are real. It
Mm.
it is what it is. So it has it's so cleverly written, and it deals with solving those types of mysteries, which I think is so different from the original. And Amanda, actually, so that Gil and Amanda in this rendition kind of grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. They didn't really have a very um, stable childhood,
Sure.
or traditional, I guess I should say, and so Amanda, you know, they deal like Gil and Amanda deal with a lot of codependency issues, but Amanda's character, my character, she's really curious, and she knows there's better out there for her. She's got a lot of hope, and she wants to experience the world and have friendships, because she's never been in a squad or never had groups of friends, and she's never experienced love the way she may or may not in
Mm,
the trajectory of this season. I'm
mm.
also, you're gonna learn, like, the queen for spilling the tea. I just have no filter. I'm not creative.
Right.
So, um, but yeah, so this character is really, like, Amanda's really cool because Gil is the complete opposite, where he's really stuck in that dark jazz that they've kind of had to live in. And so you really get to see the two different ways in which both these characters want to live their life while still being very codependent because they're twins, and figuring out how they can kind of become more independent in the paths they choose. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and you might have to correct me with some of these facts I've got. So I believe the CW show premiered in October 2019, but you joined in the second season. So I suppose that with any like scenario when you're a late person coming in, was there any kind of like nervousness or yeah, I mean just being a latecomer, was there anything attached to that you felt?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd be a massive liar if I said there wasn't.
Mm,
There always is. And you always, like, you never know, because the Drew Crew's so, like, they're so synced, and they've been friends now for so long, and they're such a tight group that I definitely had all those anxieties going in, because you never know. Like, we're all such different people and have such strong personalities. You never know if you're going to click with anyone.
mm,
Um, but luckily, these humans, like the Drew Crew, they're incredible. They opened their arms up to Praneet and I, and they're such a family, and we were really welcomed into the family. And so day one, that anxiety was kind of just washed away, because everyone was just so amazing, and they kind of treated us like we were part of them already, and there was no, like, qualm about it. We were there, and now we're part of the fam, and we were treated like family. We are treated like family. And so, and honestly, that doesn't happen a lot. Like, I got to say, I've been working quite a bit, and it's tough coming in.
mm.
Like, you don't always get that love. And I most certainly did. I know Praneet most certainly did. And so it definitely, I think, took 80% of that worry away, right? Because then you can just kind of sink in and do the work,
Yeah.
versus feeling like you have to be, like, on all the time, if that makes sense.
Mm, yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and I was just going to say, you mentioned Praneet and he plays your brother Gil, and I suppose obviously with kind of coming in with that dynamic and not being twins in real life, like how was that developing that with someone? I don't know whether you knew him beforehand or not, but presumably someone you didn't know that intimately in real life.
yeah, funny enough, Praneet and I are actually from the same hometown, from Calgary.
Right.
Um, and so I feel like I say this all the time. Like, I honestly think that had so much to do with us clicking right away,
Mm,
because we definitely clicked. And we had known each other a little bit before. Like, we met early on in 2020, but not like exactly what you said, not intimately. We weren't like close friends or anything like that. It was really just through the grapevine and short meets here and there. And
mm,
when I found, but we always had that innate connection from being from Calgary. We kind of grew, coming from a South Asian background and community, we were kind of like raised the same way, and we had quite a few of the same experiences growing up. And
mm,
so we just, it was like very instinctual and innate, like we clicked right away. And so
yeah.
thank goodness, because honestly, like, that was like another anxiety I was carrying. I mean, like,
Mm,
like, we're always like in scenes with, like, like, really, like, love interest relationships or friendships, but like that twinning energy is so hard to get if you don't connect. And luckily we did. So it hasn't really been that challenging. It's been
mm,
quite wonderful, which I count my lucky stars for, because it could have gone completely the other way, and then that would have been a whole different story.
Yeah,
So,
no, I think you definitely explained that very well. Just kind of to change tack completely. Obviously, you were on other like CW shows before this, and I suppose as a general rule, like would you say like having memorable appearances on a network could be like beneficial down the line if they need someone who fits kind of like your description or acting, talent or something.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say that that's the case, because like, you just always want your work to speak for itself, and most times it does, but at the end of the day, there's always like there's the back end business to
Mm,
it, and I hate, like, it's like the worst thing for an artist to think or talk about, but it's true. There's the commerce, and I definitely think like they see your face. The more times you see someone's face, the more recognizable they are, and then they know that like they can do the style of that network. And
yeah,
like it's just crummy to say, but I think so. I totally think so. It's a fact,
yeah.
unfortunately.
I mean, just even like another like perception of it, like something I was more thinking of was if they had a show that was about to premiere, they'd get one of the leads to be a guest on another show so that the CW audience would be familiar with their face. I think I've heard of that happening before. Just so like
Yeah,
when the new show premieres, you're like, oh, I recognize them from, you know. I think I've heard of that kind of logic before, and it
yeah.
seems to be like somewhat sound. If you recognize someone, you maybe invest more into the character that they're playing, even though you've never seen that character before.
Totally,
Um,
totally. And it's like one demographic, right? Like the network like caters to a specific demographic. Because I mean, we all have an array of shows that we love and we don't love, but you can tell on each network they kind of cater to a similar audience.
yeah,
And it just kind of is what it is. Uh, truth be
mm,
told. So totally. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happens. And you do see it, like you see the metrics and you
mm,
kind of see that viewership, increase, but it's also great too because and I'm like a culprit of that too, where I'll see a new show where I'm like, oh, and then I see someone who I've seen on a previous show who I love on guest appearing on that show, and I totally watch it, and then I fall in love with that show. So it's kind of great too because it introduces you to something you would never normally watch, but then fall in love with, and you're like, dope.
mm.
So it's human nature.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And just kind of thinking, like, if someone were to reach out to you and say, they wanted to pursue acting or a creative career and they wanted your advice, what do you think you would tell them?
Oh man. I mean, I think the first thing, and I think this has just actually started changing because I've had to think about this question. But I
Mm,
think the first thing I would say is if you think, or if you have any sort of inkling of you wanting to do something else other than acting,
mm,
go do that or try
yeah,
that out first. Because I feel like, trying to become a working actor is not for the faint at heart. I mean, it's not easy, it's wonderful and it's rewarding, but there's no clear trajectory,
mm,
and like other careers do. There's no, you can't just like, take a workshop and then have a certain skill set and then it just propels you to the next level. Um, and then I'd also say, and so, if that's the case, then quick try that out first. And then
yeah,
if you know you want to do this, I say yes to everything. Like say, don't be picky. Say yes to everything. Because in my experience, I've found that like the most magical experiences and the experiences where I feel like I've grown as an actor, human and artist, have been those ones that I never would have said yes to, but I just did. And they were like roles that I had and no sort of like connection to.
mm,
And it was from those where I was like, holy what this is
yeah,
like storytelling is. And you learn so much and you get to be transported into these worlds where like you never would. And that's what makes you a better storyteller. It's like traveling. You got to experience things in order to be able to bring something to life, right?
yeah, for sure. And I mean, obviously, I'm not an actor myself, but I've spoken with a few people about like that similar question. And just to like address anyone might be listening, might be paying attention to this question, like the advice that was just given there about pursuing something else, it may sound kind of harsh, but
Yeah.
from what I've heard, if you can find a stable career doing something else and not go through years of heartbreak and trying and not getting anywhere, it's probably worth your while to go the other direction. I mean, I mean, it's honest, but just from what I've heard from other people that, if they could have avoided the years of heartbreak they did, they probably would have if they had the choice. But,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. And like if you have, and if there's like, if you fall in love with a different career path, you got to follow that. Cause like you said, it's like years of not getting a job and
mm,
years of being told you're not good enough or just falling and then having to find some sort of spark of courage to get back up. Cause
yeah,
we all go through it and you spiral fast. And I got to say, the other thing is really like working on creating like a healthy coping kind of ritual for
yeah,
yourself. I think that's the one big thing that people don't really talk about. And I'm kind of learning myself, having fallen pretty hard and really going through that cycle, is like, man, you really need something that's healthy to fall back on that can kind of dig you out of those holes. Because I feel like that's where a lot of like substance abuse
right,
issues
yeah,
come, because we're always looking for that instant gratification because we don't get it ever.
mm,
Um, and so, that would just be another thing, is like, if you're starting off, really also work on creating some sort of safety net so that you do have something that you can use to cope when like the hard times come.
yeah,
It took me a while, and like you go through the dark stuff, and I wish someone had told me that before.
mm.
So,
Yeah, and again, something I didn't really appreciate about like that side of the acting industry until like other people were kind of sharing this, that if you're auditioning long enough, you probably get to know the other people who would fit the same roles that you do. So, you might be depriving, your friend of a job or vice versa, and that can be difficult. People have been saying, because you form these bonds with people over the period of time, and I can't imagine, it's a small number
yeah.
of people who can get booked, and you know,
No, you're so right. Like, you're on the money with that. And it's tough. Like, we're such empathetic beasts, I guess.
mm.
And you take so many things on, and especially when you do, form those really close bonds, you want your people to win, but it's also hard because you're gunning for that too. And it'd be a lie to say like you didn't feel any sort of way, even though you are really happy. Of
Yeah,
course, you're gonna feel like crap. Like it's just, again, like it's natural and instinctive, and that's, yeah, you're right. That's like really tough. It's tough, and it's tough to see when you guys aren't moving in the same trajectory together too, right? And
yeah,
that's what people don't talk about, is like if you don't have something healthy to fall back on, that can also make you spin out of control because it's so easy to compare your journey to others.
yeah. I mean, without
Yeah.
going too much into who they are, but I was reading this story from an actress who was on a network show for years, and she was saying of like her group of friends who started at the same time, eventually it was only her and one other person left. He was eventually running a coffee shop. So she says to him, like, why would you come all the way out to, I think, Los Angeles just to run a coffee shop? You could have done that back home. And so that kind of kickstarted him to try and, you know, do what you really wanted. So, and they ended up being the only two from their group who came together who ended up surviving, or surviving is a bit of a strong word, but who ended up making a career out of it.
I mean, but it's true though. I feel like surviving is also I know it's strong, but it's also the perfect word because you
Mm,
do have to find a way to survive. Literally, like, you know what I mean? Literally,
yeah.
physically, like metaphorically, all of
Mm,
it. Yeah.
yeah. And I suppose just going the complete opposite end of the spectrum with this next question, but I suppose in terms of projects that you are involved in, obviously we mentioned Nancy Drew, but are there any others we're able to talk about?
Um, I mean, honestly, I don't know what's next.
Mm,
But I did do a really, really wonderful holiday film about a month ago when I had a little break from Nancy Drew, and I'm really excited about that one because it's one of the first, I think the first holiday film that's centered around a South Asian family. And so I'm pretty excited. I think it'll probably come out like way later this year, Thanksgiving, Christmas time. But
mm,
that one was really special because we were allowed to like embrace a lot of our cultural traditions. And, we don't, I haven't really been able to do that on a
right.
project yet. And so it was just so wonderful because I got to work with people who I've looked up to, and we know you speak the same mother tongue. So
Mm.
like we were always just like chatting in Gujarati and Kutchi offset. And it was really wonderful. Praneet actually plays my brother in that. So I got to say, we're probably a
Oh,
package deal.
right. For sure.
Isn't that wild?
That's crazy. That
Yeah,
is
I
crazy.
know. I was like, okay, well, I'll take it. So that's good. But yeah, nothing in the pipeline yet, but I'm kind of okay with it. I'm really enjoying just living after this crazy year we've all been through.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
Yeah.
it's kind of nice living in the moment and taking it day by day because I feel like it's really put things into perspective for all of us, you know.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone will keep an eye out for when there is something to talk about. So best of luck
Yeah.
with that.
Thank
And I suppose, obviously, I started with like a tough question or a deep question. I'll only like to bookend it with a similar one. But like, what do you hope to accomplish with the rest of 2021?
you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, I know,
I'm
right?
so
No,
sorry.
I love it. You're making my wheels turn. Oh, I just want to get through it.
Mm,
I mean, I know that's like kind of layman, but I just want to get through 2021 and I just want to kind of continue my like, self-care journey. Like I was saying, I feel like the silver lining of the pandemic for me was me really having to take a step outside of where I was at and
mm,
create that, like I said, that like safe coping, like really healthy coping mechanism. And I've only, like I said, I've only just started doing that and I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm just
right.
laying down the foundation for that. And I've been doing a lot of work on practicing all of those things I find are helping me. And so I kind of just want to like continue doing that because I feel like that's what will help with the longevity of all of this. And I know it sounds so cliche and
Mm,
kind of dumb, but like that's kind of where I'm at, you know. Like I kind of just want to take a step back from really being tunnel visioned about my career and kind of figure out who Adila is
sure. For
this
sure.
year. And you know, that's kind of where I'm at.
Mm.
I know that's dumb, but I don't know.
Oh no, no, I, I
No.
I don't think it's dumb at all. I think obviously again, like with the year we've had, people are kind of jumping or like at those opportunities to have those times of like self-discovery or kind of just being with oneself. So no, I can completely understand where you're coming from with that. I will just wrap this up though by saying thanks for taking the time to speak with me. Just to say that again, and take care and stay safe.
Thank you. Yeah, you as well. Thank you so much. You have the best questions. You make me think. So
Thank you
I
so
like it.
much.
You're welcome.